Good day everyone, I am Safani Kim Almagalay, student from University of Resource System, Taytay Campus, BSN 2D. Thank you for being here today. I am really excited to talk with you about a topic that is not only crucial for the survival of our planet, but also directly impacts each and every one of us. Biodiversity and its connection to science, nature, and ultimately our well-being. Biodiversity is the term we use to describe the incredible variety of life forms on Earth. It includes all living organisms like plants, animals, fungi, and microorganisms, and the ecosystems they inhabit. At its core, biodiversity is the intricate web of life, a network of relationships that keeps everything in balance. And it's vital to remember we are a part of this web. Every creature, from the smallest insect to the tallest tree, plays a role in the functioning of our planet's ecosystems and, in turn, supports our survival. To begin today's lecture, let's first take a step back and reflect on our connection to the natural world. Think about how often we are immersed in nature, whether it's in urban parks, remote forests, or even just the plants in our homes. Yet, how many of us truly understand the profound importance of each aspect of biodiversity? We live alongside these countless species, and often we don't realize how much their survival is tied to our own. Today, we'll be exploring how biodiversity, though often invisible to us, is the very foundation upon which our lives rest, from ensuring our health to regulating the climate. Biodiversity is not just a collection of species. It's an intricate system that sustains all life. By the end of today's lecture, I hope you will leave with a deeper understanding of why preserving biodiversity isn't just an environmental issue, but a matter of survival and prosperity for humanity. What is biodiversity and why does it matter? So let's start with the basics. What exactly do we mean by biodiversity? And why does it matter to us? Biodiversity is a term that encompasses the variety of life on Earth. It can be broken down into three main levels: genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecosystem diversity. So let's start first with the genetic diversity. This refers to the variety of genetic material within individual species. It's what allows species to adapt to changes in the environment and evolve over time. Think about it like a collection of different versions of the same species, each slightly different but able to survive in different conditions. For example, if a disease affects one genetic variant of a species, other variants may still survive and reproduce, ensuring the species as a whole continues to exist. Without genetic diversity, species may become too homogeneous, rendering them vulnerable to environmental changes and disease. Second is species diversity. This is the variety of species found in a specific area. Each species, from the tiniest microorganism to the largest mammal, plays a unique role in maintaining ecological balance. For instance, predators regulate prey populations, while decomposers recycle nutrients back into the soil. The more species we have in an ecosystem, the more stable and resilient it is. A rich diversity of species ensures that ecosystem can recover from disturbances such as droughts, fires, or floods. Then lastly, ecosystem diversity. This refers to the variety of habitats, biomes, and ecosystems. Forests, wetlands, oceans, deserts, and more. These ecosystems are home to a vast array of species, each contributing to the health and functioning of the ecosystem. Healthy ecosystems regulate the climate, filter water, produce oxygen, and provide us with countless resources. For example, wetlands act as natural sponges, absorbing excess water during floods, while forests serve as carbon sinks, helping mitigate climate change. So why does biodiversity matter? So biodiversity support ecosystems services. Those essential processes that nature provides us for free. These services include things like the clean air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink, the pollination of crops, the regulation of climate. If we lose biodiversity, we risk losing these essential services, which would have devastating consequences for all of us. Biodiversity is also the basis for many industries, from agriculture to pharmaceuticals, and without it, our economy and well-being would be at great risk. The role of biodiversity in ecosystem services. Now let's dive deeper into those ecosystem services I mentioned earlier. We often take these services for granted, but they are truly the foundation of life as we know it. Let's explore each of these in more detail. Provisioning services. These are the direct products that humans rely on. Food, water, fuel, and medicine all come from biodiversity. Consider the wide variety of food crops we rely on, like rice, wheat, corn, and more. Without biodiversity, many of these crops wouldn't exist. For instance, bananas, which are a staple fruit worldwide, came from just one variety of a single species of banana plant. If something were to happen to this species, such as a disease, it would devastate banana crops around the world. Many of the medicines we use, whether over-the-counter or prescription drugs, are derived from plants, fungi, and microorganisms found in nature. For example, the cancer drug paclitaxel derived from the bark of the Pacific yew tree has saved countless lives. This is just one example of the many medicines we all biodiversity. Regulating services. These services regulate and maintain the environment. One of the most important is climate regulation. Forests, oceans, and wetlands act as a massive carbon sinks, absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and helping to mitigate climate change. Healthy ecosystems are crucial in regulating the global temperature and weather patterns. Another important regulating service is pollination. Around 75% of flowering plants rely on pollinators like bees, butterflies, and bats to reproduce. These pollinators are responsible for about 1/3 of the food we eat, including many of our fruits, vegetables, and nuts. If pollinators were to disappear, we would face a food crisis of unimaginable proportions. Cultural services. Nature provides us with aesthetic, recreational, and spiritual value. The simple act of hiking through a forest or swimming in the ocean can have profound physiological benefits. No, psychological benefits. Nature offers us places of reflection, inspiration, and healing. For example, time spent in natural settings has been shown to reduce stress and improve mental health. In many cultures, certain species and landscapes are sacred, and the protection of these places is integral to cultural identity. The Amazon rainforest, for example, is not only crucial to global biodiversity but also holds deep cultural significance for the indigenous communities living there. Supporting services. These services are the foundation of all other ecosystem services. They include processes like nutrient cycling, or recycling nutrients in ecosystems so plants and animals can thrive, soil formation and oxygen production. Healthy soils are the bedrock of agriculture, without which we could not grow food. Oxygen is produced by plants and phytoplankton in the oceans, which make it possible for all animals to survive. The symbiotic relationship between humans and nature. So let's now turn our attention to the concept of symbiosis, the close and often long-term interaction between different species. The symbiosis is a biological term that describes relationship that can benefit at least one of the organisms involved. There are three main types of symbiosis. Number one is mutualism. In mutualistic relationship, both species benefit. A classic example is the relationship between bees and flowers. Bees collect nectar from flowers to make honey, and in doing so, they pollinate the flowers, helping them reproduce. In return, the flowers provide bees with a food source. This is a mutually beneficial relationship that supports both the bee population and the plant species. Another example of mutualism is the relationship between mycorrhizal fungi and plants. These fungi attach to plant roots and provide them with nutrients from the soil in exchange for sugars produced by the plant. Without this symbiotic relationship, many plants would not be able to survive. Commensalism. In this type of symbiosis, one species benefits while the other is neither help nor harm. An example of commensalism is the relationship between barnacles and whales. Barnacles attach themselves to the skin of whales and gain access to nutrient-rich waters as the whale swims through them. The whale is not harmed by the barnacles, and it doesn't derive any benefit from the relationship, but the barnacles get a free ride. The last one is parasitism. In parasitism, one species benefits at the expense of the other. Example is ticks. Ticks feeding on mammals is a classic example of parasitism. Ticks suck blood from their host, which can cause harm by spreading disease like Lyme disease. Humans also live in a symbiotic relationship with nature, though we often forget this fact. Our survival depends on healthy ecosystems that provide food, clean air, water, and other resources. For instance, forests absorb carbon dioxide and provides us with oxygen, helping to regulate our climate. Pollinators are essential for the crops we eat, and soil microorganisms break down organic matter to fertilize the soil. But in recent centuries, we have moved away from a relationship of mutualism with nature. We often extract resources without giving anything back, which has led to biodiversity loss and environmental degradation. The consequences of biodiversity loss. Unfortunately, we are seeing the loss of biodiversity at an alarming rate. Human activities such as deforestation, pollution, overfishing, and climate change are driving species to extinction faster than ever before. The sixth mass extinction event is currently underway, and scientists have estimated that we are losing species at a rate 1,000 times faster than the natural extinction rate. So what happens when biodiversity is at loss or was lost? So first is ecosystem collapse. As biodiversity decreases, ecosystems become more fragile. Without intricate web of relationships that exist in healthy ecosystems, they lose their resilience and cannot bounce back from shocks like climate change or natural disasters. Coral reefs, for example, are dying off due to warming oceans and pollution. If they disappear, entire marine food chains will collapse, affecting millions of people who rely on fish for food. Second is economic impacts. Many industries rely on biodiversity. Agriculture, fishing, forestry, and tourism are all industries that depend on biodiversity. Without bees to pollinate crops, food prices could skyrocket. Without forests to provide timber, the construction industry would suffer. Loss of biodiversity leads to economic instability and threatens jobs and livelihoods. Lastly is health risk. Biodiversity loss also poses risk to human health. The destruction of natural habitats brings humans and wildlife into closer contact, increasing the risk of zoonotic diseases. Diseases that jump from animals to humans, like HIV, SARS, and Ebola, are examples of zoonotic disease that have emerged in recent decades, and climate change is likely to increase the frequency of such diseases. The path forward: preserving biodiversity for future generations. So now that we understand the importance of biodiversity and the consequences of its loss, what can we do about it? The good news is that we have the power to protect and preserve biodiversity through our choices and actions. Number one is conservation efforts. So governments and organizations worldwide are working to protect critical habitats through national parks, wildlife reserves, and protected areas. For example, the establishment of the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park in Australia has helped protect this biodiversity hotspot from the ravages of overfishing and pollution. We can support these efforts through advocacy, donations, and active participation. Second is sustainable practices. Whether in agriculture, fishing, or forestry, we need to adopt sustainable practices that protect ecosystems while meeting human needs. Sustainable farming techniques such as crop rotation, reduced pesticide use, and agroforestry help maintain biodiversity. By supporting sustainable brands, we encourage industries to operate in ways that minimize the environmental impact. Restoration projects meant. Third is restoration projects. Many restoration efforts are underway to rebuild ecosystems that have been damaged by human activities. For instance, large-scale reforestation projects are taking place around the world to restore forests. The Everglades restoration projects in the United States aims to recover wetlands, while projects to restore coral reefs are being implemented in many parts of the world. Lastly is personal actions. So on a personal level, we can make choices that support biodiversity. This can range from reducing our carbon footprint to supporting sustainable agriculture, to reducing waste and consumption. Every small action can contribute to a healthier planet. So in conclusion, biodiversity is not just the variety of life, it's the foundation of life itself. It supports the ecosystem that provides us food, water, and air, regulates our climate, aids in the purification of our water, and ensures the resilience of our planet in the face of change. We are deeply interconnected with nature, and we must recognize our role in maintaining this balance. Thank you for your attention today, and I hope this lecture has inspired you to think more deeply about biodiversity and its importance in your own lives. We all have a responsibility to ensure that biodiversity thrives for generations to come. Let's commit ourselves to protecting the intricate web of life that sustains us. Now, I'd be happy to take any questions, discuss your thoughts, and explore how we can work together to preserve our planet's biodiversity.